All right. So before we get started, let me just go over some housekeeping. Our code of conduct is here to support women to excel in technology careers, and we don't want anybody to feel unwelcome here. If you have any questions or issues, feel free to send me a private message, or you can fill out our incident response form at womanwhocode.com/code of conduct. And just so you know, we'll be taking screenshots of the event. This is for promotional purposes and allows us to keep hosting free events like these. And as I said, our mission is to empower diverse women to excel in technology careers. And our ultimate vision is to have a tech industry where diverse women and historically excluded people thrive at every level. We have over 360,000 members all over the world, which is crazy. And this is a look at our current volunteer team at Women Who Code East Bay. I'll pause here for a moment in case you would like to scan and sign up to volunteer with us. We're a pretty good team. And that could be you. And we're trying something new this week. We are doing a Volunteer of the Week spotlight, and this week is Yusuf. He had 3 years of experience and is pretty expert with JavaScript, Python, React, Node, Express. Sorry? Looks like somebody was not on mute. But anyway, Yusuf is available for opportunities and relocation. If you have any opportunities for mid-level full stack engineers at your organization, feel free to connect Yusuf on LinkedIn. And last but not least, I'll give it away to Keren.
So today we're going to talk about creating a tailored resume. Why do we even need this? What is a job fit? How do we analyze our fit for the role? As Liana mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bullseye. Myself, I relocated to the US about 10 years ago and faced I want to say, not as, friendly job search process. Even though I was already an engineer with 10 years of experience, I thought this would be like a breeze finding a job. It turned out to be a 6-month struggle. And surprisingly, that never changed ever since then. The job market, the job search still remains a frustrating, demoralizing process. So what we set out to do is solve that through technology. Obviously, we cannot minimize everything, but we set out to help job seekers make the job search much more accurate and much more easy. What we'll talk about today, we'll talk about a research that we've done that encompasses over 100 job seekers, recruiters, and hiring managers. We'll see when you talk about recruitment and job search, we have to understand both sides. So that's why we talked with recruiters and wanted to get their side of how they're looking at a resume. How are they even deciding if to, call this person or not? We'll talk about a different philosophy to job seeking, which is that's what we advocate for, moving away from the spray and pray or the numbers game to a more accurate and focused job search overall. We'll talk about understanding how well we are a fit for a job, even being able to quantify this. We'll talk about what's a good or not so good resume template and why that even matters, and how to tailor each one of the resume sections, and we'll see a few examples. And as Liana mentioned, please feel free, we're a small group, feel free to interrupt me as we go, either put in the chat or unmute your mic, any way is good. So first thing is, recruiters, they usually, I mean, in these days, they get hundreds, if not many, many hundreds of applications for each job posting. And that gets filled up within a few days from posting a job typically. So what they do is they take the applications as they go, about 50 or 70 at a pile at a time, and then they scan them. They obviously they know the job, the requirements. So what they usually do, they mentally scan them, and they're looking to see how well this candidate meets the job description or the qualifications. And typically you'll see at a job posting, basic set of qualifications and then preferred. Not, you won't see that 100% of the time, but many times you'll see a list of preferred skills or qualifications as well. So when we want to communicate our worth or how well we meet the qualifications, we first off have to meet as many of the basic qualifications as we can. And the preferred requirements are you can think of them as bonus points or extra points, whereas you need to check as many of them as you can, obviously, and make the resume communicate that, but it's not at the expense of the basic requirements. And we'll look into examples of that, what that actually means. Also, when they spent about 30 seconds on scanning the resume, they're looking to find as much as possible quantified or specific measurable achievements versus generalized statements of I did this and I did that. Be able to talk in quantified achievements. For example, saved 30% in product lifecycle time, or saved X amount of dollars, or cut budget by this percent, or reduced time, or anything of that sort. Try to think in terms of in quantifiable measures, or in either dollar amounts, time frame saving, cost saving, growing a team, giving numbers to that. So this is helpful to recruiters to be able to quickly, again, in under 30 seconds, understand the value this person is bringing to the table, but also benchmark this person against the other folks in that 50 to 70 application pile. Being able to describe your achievements and your successes and the benefits which you bring to the table in measurable terms is important, not only for the resume, by the way, but also for the interview. And we'll talk more in depth about that. So in terms of a philosophy, what we advocate for and what we provide tools for actually making this easy is to move away from the, playing the numbers game, applying to many, many, many applications, which is what I talk with many job seekers. So we know it's a common theme, and many people think of this also as a way of, winning over the market, which is so hard. There are even instances of what we call rage apply, where people just, click the easy apply button and just do that like 100 times a day, many times applying to things that are completely irrelevant to their experience, to their to their skills, to even what they want, where they want to go. And that actually builds up frustration. So it's obviously it's not gonna get a job or a call or a callback from the company, but also it builds up frustration. It's actually working against you and not for you, because people say, hey, you know what? I applied to 400 jobs and I only heard from 3. How is that possible? So the reason is that most of those, or a good number of those 400 jobs, were not relevant for what you are looking for and what you qualify for. So in terms of a job search philosophy, we help people and we advocate for the quality over quantity approach, meaning be very focused on why you're applying for this job and truly understand what you bring to the employer, what you bring to this company and the team, and why this is a good fit. Conduct a job fit analysis, which we'll talk in depth about today. Use simple resume template, and I'll explain why, what's the purpose of that. Be able to tailor the resume for each job description, and I'm not talking only about plugging keywords. I'm talking about understanding the fit as a whole and be able to communicate that very, very clearly through a resume. And use the STAR method or STAR, we'll talk about this, but it's also maybe sometimes it's called PSR, problem solution result approach, both for resumes and for interviews. Any questions so far? I can't see the chat, so if anything came through there.
Nothing in the chat yet.
Okay, good. And Liana, you have the links if anything to put in the chat as we go.
Yes, I saw the email.
Great. Okay, so job fit, what is it? Why does it even matter? So according to NACE, this institute, that's a National Association for Colleges and Employers, based on the research that they've done, and that's something that makes a lot of sense. Employers favor candidates who demonstrate skills and experiences directly related to the role, to the job posting, to the job description. And there's another research by TalentWorks that shows that even if you meet 60% of the job requirements as opposed to 50%, you double your chances of being invited to an interview. So even a small percentage in the sense of meeting the qualifications, what the job description is talking about, gets you a long way.
Do you have the links to those?
Yes. Yes, and it's also in the blog, and yeah, I can send it later.
We had a question. Will these slides be shared?
Yes, I can share them.
Perfect.
Actually, I think that the first link I shared with the job fit article from the blog has the links to both of these researchers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Now let's see, okay, now we understand why a job fit analysis is important. Let's see how you actually do that. How do you, what's the strategy about this? So it's easy to conduct by yourself. You don't need anything but a pen and paper, but there has to be, some level of integrity, self-integrity, and I'll talk about this here. So here I took an example of a software developer entry-level role. So on the left, I use an example that's called like a T-chart, which is very simple. On the left-hand side, you put the job description requirements, the essential requirements versus the preferred requirements. And then on the next column, I put, if I'm giving the examples as they are presented in the resume of my qualifications that talk exactly about this specific requirement. So for example, this job posting wants proficiency in HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So I'm giving the example as it's written in my resume, expert in HTML, so-and-so. And then they want experience in backend languages, Node, JS or Python. I'm saying I have experience with Python, but I don't have experience with Node, JS, and then so on and so forth. I go about this. I do this for the preferred requirements as well. And then I either, and then I give a score. I say, is this like a full match, what I'm talking through the requirement, or is this like a partial match, such as this example with the Python and Node? And then I give a score. Either a full match gets a single point or a partial match gets half a point. Then I sum everything up, and I'm talking only about the basic requirements, essential requirements so far. And then I see that if I combine all of those, I get to 4 out of 5, which is an 80. And then I'm also meeting, in this case, the 2 other additional preferred requirements. So I'm getting like 80% plus 2 preferred. This is a good place to be in. And the rule of thumb, when should you apply? It should be either 70% of meeting the basic requirements or above for this to be a good application or a good job fit, and then you go ahead and apply. Okay, but I was mentioning, yeah, let's look at another example. This time I took a program manager role, but a more experienced one. So this one wants like 10 years of program management, and say I have 8. So I'm partially meeting the requirement, proven track record in complex projects, and I have that, and it's detailed in my resume. Leadership, cross-functional teams, PMP, certification, and then budget management experience, which I can't say I have. I assisted with budget oversight, but I don't have direct management of budget. So I can't say I meet that requirement fully. I get a partial match. So again, in this case, again, it's just an example, 80%, and I go ahead and apply. But what's important here is the objectivity or the integrity of running this, conducting this by yourself. It takes longer than just scanning, looking at a job description, and also it's a good way to identify gaps that you have against the job description, or that you're not mentioning things on the resume. Many times we are thinking, hey, I'm a good match. Anyone should be able to read my resume and see that. And what happens is that you have to explicitly mention the fit in the resume and not assume that people are going to spend a lot of time reading through. Remember the 30 seconds rule? That's why we have to make ourselves, as applicants, we have to make it very easy on the reader to quickly, under 30 seconds, read my resume and understand why there's a great match here. Something that doesn't need a lot of exercises in their heads to figure out or to connect the dots. No, it has to be very explicit, and that's why the tailoring part is so important. Now, what we go about this, if we look at this as a process, we run the job fit analysis using the T-chart. We assume equal weights for every requirement, right? And then it helps us to identify gaps or blind spots that we have. So I can either add relevant information in my resume if I find something, or maybe I don't have anything else to say, then that's my score. If I do have any relevant information, I add it to the resume, and then I rerun the job fit analysis. If I have greater than a 70% or so, I go ahead and apply.
We have a question about what if you have the 80% match, but you don't know how to translate that into your resume.
Yes, great. We'll talk about this later. Yes, about the tailoring part, exactly. So up until now, just talking about like, how do I understand what's a good fit? How can I quantify my fit for the role? Okay, this is an example of Bullseye. This is our product. And it actually does the job fit analysis for you. So what you can see in the example here, this person got a 58% of a match, and then it gives you the requirements, goes one by one for each one, and analyzes the fit, reading the resume, and giving you the evaluation, the assessment details for each one of those, and explaining where the gaps are. Like, what did I read your resume. This is what I was able to extract. And some things I'm not sure about, like it's not fully explicit. Like, I need more information to work with, to qualify, to check this box. And some things I can't find altogether, like React experience. It didn't find that altogether. That's why it's an X. So this tool helps you with objectively analyzing your fit for the role rather than you doing this by yourself. But obviously, it's just a pen and paper exercise. Anyone can do that. Okay, now that we understand, okay, we know why a job fit is important. We know how to analyze the job fit. Let's see why is a resume template even important, and how it can actually damage our job search process. So first off, what's an ATS? I'm sure you all know an ATS is an applicant tracking system. It is the container on the employer side through which, I apply for a job, and my entire application, my cover letter, the details, everything that's important goes into that storage, into that applicant tracking system. And what the applicant tracking system does as a first part is parsing my resume. So it's getting this PDF or Word document, and then it's just extracting the relevant information, the titles, the company, my name, the details, the LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. But the problem is that in many times, when we use complex resume templates, such as you see here, either column-based, headshots embedded in the document, or design elements, things that look very nice on the eyes for the human, but the ATS, those systems, many times stumble upon those things, those elements, and the outcome of that is that they extract only a partial of the information of the resume, or sometimes not at all, or they extract it in a way that is mixing stuff up. So for example, it will extract like the profile parts, like read it left to right. So I get mixed sentences. And so things that don't make sense at all, obviously not your intent. And people actually pay money. I talk to people and they pay money for these templates, either through Canva or other stuff, many other tools out there that provide templates. They don't even know that it's harming them in the process itself. And they say that, I applied to this position, I could be a great fit, then I got a rejection letter within an hour. How come someone read my resume in an hour? So what happened is, for the most part, no one read your resume within an hour and gave you and sent you back a rejection letter. The system itself, the ATS, wasn't coping well for many reasons with the resume itself, was parsing it wrong or anything of that sort, and just stumbled on this and sent a rejection letter. So that's what happens. And that's why it's so important to be aware of that. What we recommend is using a very simplistic, plain vanilla template. We vetted this with over 15 recruiters in terms of in hiring managers, how they would like to see the information being conveyed, and also what is, what's ATS friendly.
Hello. Hi.
Yes. Is there a question? Does anyone? Okay. So the template itself has a few parts. As you see, it's got the summary part, it's got the skills part, which I'll talk about, and I'll elaborate on each and every one of those portions: experience, education, projects, and volunteering. And it's very, as I was saying, it's very, boring in a sense. It's not as nice looking, but it does the job. It gets the job done. It's easy compared to, remember the 30 seconds rule, compared to the other templates that you've seen. It's easy to get the information succinctly from this template. Obviously, it's got a lot to do with the context, how it's being presented, right? How it's being communicated. But the template itself, the structure, is very easy to follow, and you get the gist of what this candidate is bringing to the table, mainly from the summary and the skills and a bit of the experience section. You don't necessarily have to read all the way through. So, so up until now, we talked about the job fit analysis, why it's important, and how is the template serving the purpose of going past the ATS, going past the recruiter, within the 30 seconds that they spent initially on a resume. Now let's see, there was a question about like, how do I, I know I'm a good fit. Now, how do I express that through a resume? So let's look at each and every one of the sections we had in the previous slide. We had the summary statement. So let's talk about that first. So ideally, this is the area in which you'll communicate the why should we hire you for the job. This is where you answer that question. This is where you convey how well of a fit you are. Ideally, it should be between 1 to 3 sentences, using an active tone and active language, confident language, using the word, expertise, proficient, skilled, accomplished, so and so, and talking in first person. So avoiding the use of the word I. Okay, it's not I did this and I did that. And I'll now show you a few examples of how to use what the language should be, and also how to tailor. So let's look at this. These are elements. Again, I'm taking an example of a program management role. These are elements from the job description that you can typically find. One would be, what's the job title and the work experience that they want. So in this example, they want 10 years of program management in the tech industry. That's what they want. That's the first element. Then the second element, what's the context? What is this? Where is this company operating? What industry? What work environment? Is this a corporate? Is this a startup? What's the nature of the company? So these guys, they're a fast-paced, innovative software development SaaS company.
Question, Karen.
Yeah.
Lori is saying, I was told to use I for the LinkedIn summary. Would you agree with using I in the LinkedIn summary, or omit it there?
No, not use the word I. Use the same first person implicit. And we can talk about the LinkedIn profile and how to manage, if we have time, how to manage the LinkedIn persona versus my resume persona, how to balance those, how to balance between those. And it's important, especially when we're applying to different titles, but maintaining a single LinkedIn profile. Okay, so we were at the context. Next, they want education. So they want, in this case, they want a bachelor's degree, computer science related, or PMP. And they want area of expertise. They want strong track record of large-scale software development, deep understanding of agile methodologies. Right. So we take all of those components, elements from the job description, and we need to weave them into that 1 to 3 sentences summary statement, which conveys how we are a good candidate for this role. So this is the outcome, a potential outcome of this. An experienced program manager, 8 years of experience, fast-paced companies driving development of large-scale SaaS products, hold a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. That's my background. PMP certification, skilled at leading software projects through agile practices. So very succinct, very focused, combining, weaving the elements of the job description to position myself for the role. Make sense?
I had a question about your use of program management. I haven't heard that term much. Like, is it similar to project manager, product manager?
Yeah, program manage. So it's different from project and it's different for product. A project manager is usually talks about the scope of the number of projects that you're managing, that you're overlooking. So you could be a project manager and you take a single project all the way from inception to completion. So you'd manage all aspects of this program, of this project, which means mainly the resources, the schedules, the delivery, the roadmap, the product roadmap, the budget, so on and so forth throughout the phase of this specific project. Program manager is the managing a portfolio of projects that have commonalities, that have synergies. Typically, it's the same set of people working in a matrix format across different projects. So you would manage, say, a department. You would be like a program manager for a department or a group that is working on several different products. And you'd be overlooking all of those products. That's a program manager. Product manager is different in the sense that it has a different scope or a different role. The product manager is the voice of the customer. So their role is to be customer facing, understand what the customer wants and needs, and understand the industry they're operating in and what's the, have like a more of a future look of where this technology or anything is going, and then bring all of that information back to the company and help build the product roadmap. In essence, what are the features, what are the capabilities, and how to build that across over time. What's most important, the priorities of the customer, and so forth. That makes sense?
Thank you for explaining that.
Okay, so now we've talked about the summary section. Let's talk about the skill section. The skill section is where you identify very few number of skills. Again, it's not a laundry list of things, such as many times I see in resumes. So the way to go about this is you identify from the job description the key skills that are relevant. And this is an example of an entry-level UX designer role. Whereas what's highlighted here is both a few hard skills, but also soft skills like collaboration, communication, fast-paced environment, those skills. And then you choose which skills to highlight in your tailored resume. You pick the skills that are strongest with you, that you are excelling in them, and that are the best fit for the job. Obviously, not all of them I would put. And then you group similar skills together and order them. So the order in which they're mentioned in the job description gives you a hint of what is most important to the employer. Also, I didn't mention that even, right? But the job description itself typically goes in terms of the requirements. The most important requirement will come on top. And then as you go down, you'll see the less and less important, also important, but less of importance. And then at the bottom, typically, you'll see the preferred. So that's how to read what is important to this employer, what is most important to this employer versus what's less important. And then step 3, you decide on the formatting, how you want to structure this. You can either put this in column-based, which is more readable, or you can put this in rows, and then you can group them as well. Like this is also an example of grouping the JavaScript frameworks, React and all those. That's an example. Or you can put them in rows. Just make sure both of these examples are good. Just make sure that it doesn't become too congested, and that's hard to read. Go back to the 30 seconds. Make sure that it's easily, that you're able to communicate this very, very easily to the recruiter. Okay, now that we've done the summary section, we've talked about the skills, how to pick them, how to stage them, how to rank them. Let's talk about the experience section. How did you tailor that? So as we talked about being able to quantify achievements, what have you done? What impact have you brought to the company, to the group, to your team, to the product? It's important to be able, not every bullet point has to be in numbers or quantified, but have at least one in each company that you worked for and each job title that you worked for that talks about that talks about your quantifiable achievements. So for example, if you reduced bug throughput time by 30%, or in Agile, you increased velocity, or you cut time in product life cycle, or you've developed a prototype much faster by X% faster than it used to be before because you brought in a new methodology of prototype development from outside that you've researched. Or you grow a team from 2 to 4 people, or you brought a new methodology that's able to scale the number of customers you're able to serve. All of those examples are examples of how the impact that you brought serves a bigger cause. It helps to show the recruiter as well that you are able to, yes, dive into the details, but also be able to see the big picture of how is my role, what I'm doing here, contributing to the entire, scope of the team. And this brings us to the STAR methodology. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and results. It's a way to framework, it's a way to think, a methodology that is very useful both in the resume and in interviews, how you answer questions. You typically talk about like what was the problem, what was the situation you were facing, what was the task that you were specifically faced with, what was the action that you specifically had taken in that situation, and most important, what were the results? And the results, again, can be the benefits, the savings, the rewards, improvements, recognitions. All those are examples of results. And this, the STAR, or thinking through how to quantify results, is an exercise. Many times it's not straightforward, and you need to think about it and digest it a bit and think through what did I can't, many times I hear people say, I can't quantify this. I don't know. I wrote X lines of code. Obviously, that's not a quantifiable achievement. It's more of how those lines of code contributed to the project. Okay. Questions?
Yes, I have a question. So normally in these bullets, I guess I have a problem with like acronyms because I want to add acronyms to make it very concise. But then when I start adding acronyms, it can get confusing, and that can mean, different things for different industries. So do you recommend me actually spelling it out, or maybe like in the skill section, spell it out there, but in the bullets, replace it with acronyms?
Can you give an example?
Yeah, like you had AWS in MySpace. I mean, I feel like that's pretty common. But a lot of, perhaps it's not for like a recruiter. I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
AWS is very common. If how can you tell if they put that acronym on the job description? That's common. That's a terminology in this industry. So you don't have to worry about that. Things that may be more complex, maybe something very specific to the industry that you're working in or that you're coming from, those may not be, common terminology that the people on the other side are using, so that you need to spell that out many times. Or many times that wouldn't be even important to them. It's mostly understanding what you did, what you brought, what impact you've made, rather than the specific acronym.
Okay, I think I like that. So maybe like as a general rule of thumb, if they have it as an acronym on the job listing, then I can use it as an acronym on their
They
resume.
know, yeah,
Oh,
they know,
great.
they know what they're looking for. Yes.
Along that line of thought, is it okay to have multiple lines per bullet point? Because as you're spelling out, it can elongate your bullet points.
Multiple lines per, you mean on the experience section?
Yes.
So that depends, and that's a good question. This is an example of what a bullet point can look like. So it cannot be, so it should, again, it's along what we talked about, the STAR, or another way to, people call this as the problem solution result, which is easier to maybe think through. Sorry. So in this example, we have like color-coded the problem, the solution, and the result in each statement. So just as an example, facing 20% end of the year sales deficit, spearheaded targeted marketing dynamic pricing overhaul, resulting in 25% boost in sales volume within a quarter. So you can see that and by the way, the order of the sentence should be reversed, meaning we always start with the result. Meaning I brought in 25% boost in sales volume within a quarter, spearheading a targeted marketing and dynamic pricing overhaul while facing the end of the year sales deficit, something like that. But always start with the result, what you brought in, right? So that's where the focus of attention should be. If I am boring the person who's reading the sentence right off the bat, nobody's going to get to the end of the sentence. Same as with the resume, same with anything we communicate from a business perspective. We need to catch the attention right off the bat. So the third sentence there, achieved 50% rise in sales activities, while challenged with doubling sales output through implementation of process automation and team expansion. That's an example of how to frame this. But nonetheless, that's just the order of how we built this sentence or we built this statement. But how we approach this should always come from a point of, what was the problem I was trying to solve? Like, really, what was the problem that they put me in there to solve? What was the solution? Did I bring a new methodology from outside? Did I just automate things? Did I made things much more efficient internally, but being able to explain that? What was it that I was doing? And then, okay, what was the outcome of that? So thinking through this framework is also very, very useful in the interviews themselves, because every question that you will get asked, you can answer with such a framework in mind. And you don't have to always necessarily pinpoint a number, but think through to be very specific in what you did to solve a problem. Okay?
We have a couple questions from Nikita. Sometimes it's hard to quantify these experiences. Do we kind of estimate what was our impact, especially if it was a school project?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is always the harder part, like understanding, quantifying. You can either, go back to people you worked with and ask, or you can look at the same industry you were at, what were specific KPIs, key product indicators, or that are common in this industry, to kind of think through what benefit you brought. Many times, if you don't have a number, if you really cannot get to any number and any bullet point, that's still okay. But still be able to talk in this framework of problem, solution, result. That is important, because it helps with being very specific on your contribution, your specific contribution, in understanding how your specific contribution made an impact across a team or a business challenge the company was facing. There's always a challenge. There's always a problem. If I'm being paid a salary to sit and do something, there is always a problem that I need to solve. Even though it may not be, communicated to me like that, there's always a business issue that needs to get resolved.
There's also a comment from Mandy about what to do when a lot of the quantifiable impacts are insider info that hasn't been published in public.
Yes. So you need to think through around it without being given a specific example. I'm not sure how to address this. But you can always talk about like you improved, if it's, you know, say, I want to say, you know, productivity, 3x as compared to industry standards. So you're not really giving out any secrets away, but you're comparing yourself to the industry and explaining how much better you were able to become through your contribution. Something along those lines. Again, I mean, it is important to talk and be able to convey your, as much as we can, measurable outcomes. But obviously not giving away like trade secrets or anything like that. You know, if there's anything I can help, I can, you know, I don't know who's that person asking, but I can help you offline think through.
We also had a question from Filipa about a you story. She put a link in the chat about a YouTube channel called A Life Engineered. How it says, don't get down leveled, or how to tell a good story. Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard the you
story.
You story. I think I haven't heard of that specific term, but it sounds like something we've touched upon in building that persona for each in the summary statement, and building that persona and being able to tell a story, because this is what it is. We're kind of telling a story. Each bullet point here is about telling a very small story, but that is very focused on resolving a challenge, specific business challenge. Okay, just to give an example, this is another part of the functionality of the product we're working on is, again, talking about all the points that you guys brought up. How do I articulate myself? How do I know what to highlight, what to low light, what's important, what's less important, how to you know, congest things or you know, or not, how to tell a story, how to use the PSR. So that's exactly what Bullseye does for you. This is an example of a resume of a real person, not the real name. At the left-hand side, this is the original resume that person had. You can see how a recruiter would find it very hard in 30 seconds, no matter what job description this person is applying to be able to sense if this is a good fit or not. So after the person has worked with the tool, what you can see on the right-hand side is the outcome of this. This is like, again, the summary, the skills and all that. And obviously it's tailored for a specific job description. So the tool actually tailors with an initial resume and a little conversation about each gaps that it finds for each job description. It's able to tailor the resume, build that story, pick only the relevant skills that are important for the role, everything that we talked about, and build the PSR statements for each and every one of those automatically. Okay, so let's see, what do employers actually think about using AI resumes and AI as a whole in the job search process? So it turns out that that 45% of job seekers use generative AI. This is a research from 2024, beginning of 2024, and that hiring managers actually accept this and think this is, you know, makes a lot of sense. It also helps recruiters in making the resumes more readable, either like small things like grammar mistakes, or how, you know, a statement is being built or worded or anything of that sort that helps them even on the readability side. But at the same token, they're saying that generative AI has a tendency many times to make things seem very, robotic in a way and not personalized. And they want to see, so what they say, bottom line, what they say is use innovation with judiciously, essentially balance technology with personal touches to make this, the resume and the application overall authentic and truly representing who you are and what you want to do and what you bring to the table. Any questions on this? Yeah, and I think we're right on time, and we're offering Women Who Code a chance to take a part of our private beta. As I mentioned, the tool itself, we have deep job fit analysis, as we saw, and customizing resumes for each job description. I'll be happy to share more information for people who are interested, and also be happy to connect on LinkedIn if you like. That's it. Any questions?
Yes, I have one question. I know all of this is really like successful and is needed. And then you talked about in the beginning the bulk of applicants. So how do you balance out, or what's a good rule of thumb for how much time you should spend on this? And then it being maybe 2-3+ weeks that the job has been out. And I guess I just have a concern that if it's too late in the game, because I've spent so much time tailoring my resume, that by that time they've already selected candidates.
Yes, I cannot tell you how much this question is important. It is key to the job search. These days, job postings or job openings fill out very, very fast. You should aim to check jobs every day, if you can. Check jobs every day and look at the most recent ones that came out. So, for example, things that came out either in the past 48 hours, because you want to be in the first pile. Remember the pile that I mentioned? You want to be at the first pile they pick up. The first 50 to 70, 80 people that they're checking, you want to be there. And the way to go about this is apply within the first day or two. If you wait 3 weeks, you could be the best fit in the world and have the best resume, but you'll get overlooked because you'll be, maybe the 400, 500. That's not where you want to go. So, everything I was saying overall, it takes a lot of time understanding the job fit, even getting there, just going every day on this, this job hunt, finding the ones, understanding what's a good fit, finding the ones that are good for you, and then being able to communicate your essence in a very succinct manner. That's very time consuming. Even with ChatGPT and all of that, it's time consuming and nerve-wracking. We hope, that's why we built the tool. We hope that by using Bullseye, and we see that from the first private beta already that we had with people, you're able to cut that dramatically to under minutes, under a minute for the entire thing. So that gives you, using this or doing this yourself, but it gives you an edge in being able to apply fast, act fast. Okay, but another thing I wanted to mention is people, and it's important to find referrals in companies, right? Specifically today, it's important to find referrals, but don't wait in the application process until you find a referral. Okay, you found a job, it's a good fit, you got a tailored resume, go ahead and apply. Afterwards, find the referral. And I'm putting here the link to sign up if you want. And we're starting the next batch this week.